This is an overview of using OLT onlinetaxes.com. So it's OLT.com. I've been using this website for several years now, and it is very, very simple to use. And if you have state taxes, it only costs you $10. The federal is free. So I highly suggest that you use OLT.com instead of TurboTax or H&R Block or anything like that. Again, it is depends on how difficult your taxes are, on how easy it will be to do them. There are search features to find the forms that you need. Most of the time, you can just type in the form that you have, and it will tell you where you need to put it. But that being said, the software is only as good as the knowledge of the person entering the information. So if you have items in your that should be on your taxes that are not straightforward, W-2 and kind of ends there, then you should consider reaching out to a tax professional, whether it be myself or someone else, to get some assistance in making sure that you are entering all the information that you are allowed to enter, that you are getting all the deductions that you're allowed to get, that you are not overstating anything, and that, I just want everyone to be able to understand their taxes, understand what is going on, find ways that best serve them to save money, and do more to stimulate the economy, because ultimately that's what the IRC, the Internal Revenue Code, is about. It's not about paying in. It is about keeping it so that you can spend it, to be honest. So that being said, this is a dummy account. I haven't looked at this account yet this year, but I'm gonna just attempt to go through it with fake information and go from there. So when you start, you have to have an email and a password to get started. If you are going to reach out to me and have me help you do any of that, I suggest you at least get that far before our consultation call. But I'm happy to walk through any of it with you step by step. So let's get going. Start my 2022 return. I highly suggest that you don't do extensions. We have plenty of time. So if you need help, reach out. Myself or my partner, Kim, can help you. In the meantime, let's go ahead and look at the software. All right, so select your return type. Most of us are going to be US citizens, and we don't need to check no, so I'm going to go with that. So we're just going to continue. And we are going to do the free version. The premium version gives you access to customer support, audit support, year-over-year comparison, and discounted state pricing. You're more than welcome to do that if you want to. It costs an extra $7.95 for the federal and $7.95 for the state. I am going to use the free edition with you today. So getting around OLT. So you have form search that is on most of the pages. Form search, if you type in W-2, for example, let's just do that. Well, it's not going to let us on this page. So anyway, form search, you'll see on the left-hand side, my info, extension, federal, state, attachments, review, and so on and so on. So it is best that you do not start any of this until you have everything in front of you. If you have questions on the everything, watch some of my calls. I talk about it extensively. I don't want to get into that here. I want to make this as short and sweet and to the point as possible. But make sure that you have everything in front of you. Go through it one step at a time. Don't move forward until you finish that page. If you don't have the information, save, exit, go get the information, come back to it. You're better off if you start at the beginning and one step at a time maneuver through the software. If you don't, things are going to get forgotten, mistakes are going to be made, and we don't want that to happen. Save and continue. All right, so contact information is on the first page. Obviously, you guys see my phone number is there, and one of my many email addresses is there. So email address, check here if you don't want to print your email address on your return. Check here if you don't want to print your phone number on the return. You have to enter a phone number. You can pick the drop down on what type of phone number it is. Check here if you don't want to have your mobile number printed. Save and continue. All right, again, this is fake information. So we have John Doe and his fake social security number, and his fake date of birth. And we're going to say that he did not get a 1095-A. So if you purchased your health insurance on the marketplace, then you would have received a 1095-A and you would say yes here. In this case, we're going to just say no and move on. If you say yes, somewhere down the line, it will populate for you to enter that. We're going to say that nobody was blind, nobody was disabled, and nobody died during the 2022 year, and no one was U.S. Armed Forces at the time. Again, all these things are simple yes or no answers. If the situations apply to you, it's not a problem. Just check the boxes. If there's anything that needs to come up, it will come up in the software. So we've got, does the primary taxpayer have a valid Social Security number for EIC or employment purposes? EIC is earned income. So whether if you've got kids or if you're low income, then you might have the eligibility to get earned income credit. Could the primary taxpayer be a qualifying child of another person for EIC purposes? In our situation, we're going to say no. Again, just answer the questions truthfully, and the pertinent pages will come up for you. That's because I have 2 of these accounts, 2 of these walkthroughs. All right, so address, enter your correct address, what state you lived in. Just carefully read the questions and answer them. Check the box or don't check the box, depending on your situation, and save and continue. So we're going to say we did not live in any other state other than the one that we put on there, or made money in any other state. If you are an online reseller, it does not mean that you made money in any other state. So it would still be a no. Making money in any other state is actually holding a job or having a company in more than one state. What is your filing status? So obviously single is single, means you are not legally married. Married filing joint return, you are legally married and you are filing together with your spouse. Married filing separate return, you are legally married and you are each filing a separate return. None of your information is going to go on a return together. Head of household, you have dependents and you are the majority responsibility for the dependents' well-being, welfare, financial responsibility. You cannot be married and be head of household for your spouse. That's incorrect. You'll get in trouble. Head of household is single with dependents, or legally separated with dependents is a possibility, but not married. I've seen way too many people try and use married and their spouse as a qualifying dependent, and that's not the way it goes. Qualifying surviving spouse with dependent child. I think that kind of speaks for itself. Save and continue. Do you want $3 to go to the presidential election campaign fund? Yes or no? Pick one, save and continue. All right, additional information. A transaction involving virtual currency includes, we're talking about crypto, the receipt or transfer of virtual currency for free without providing any consideration, including from an airdrop or following a hard fork. I'll be honest with you, when it comes to the crypto stuff, if you have it, reach out. We will navigate those waters together. I'm not going to get into that here. And some of the stuff I would have to do research on. An exchange of virtual currency for goods or services, a sale of virtual currency, an exchange of virtual currency for other property, including for another virtual currency. However, if you bought virtual currency and we're just going to say you lost money, but you didn't do anything with it, or it just sat still, you didn't do anything with it, you bought it and left it alone, then none of this applies to you. It only applies if you made a transfer, you made a sale, you bought something with virtual currency, or you exchanged virtual currency for another virtual currency. So we are going to answer no to most of these things. At any time during 2022, did you A, receive as a reward, a payment for property or services, or B, sell, exchange, gift, or otherwise dispose of a digital asset or a financial interest in the digital asset? For us, that's going to be no. Taxpayer age 65 or older are eligible to file 1040-SR. 1040-SR does not change the tax return information. The form prints in a larger font and better color contrast to make it easier to read. Do you want to generate Form 1040 SR for your return? That is up to you. I'm going to say no, although bigger font does sound kind of nice. Were you a dual status alien? For our example, we're going to say no. Form 1040 Schedule LEP is preference to receive written communication from the IRS in a language other than English. In our example, no. Save and continue. Whew. Alternative media preference. Taxpayers with print disabilities can use Form 9000 to elect to receive written communication from the IRS in an accessible font or format. Goes on to say, making an election on this form will affect how the IRS provides you written communication. Otherwise, there are no other changes. Do you want to state a preference? And in our case, we are going with no. Do you have a dependent or qualifying individual to enter? We are going with no for our example. Can you be claimed as a dependent on another person's tax return? For our example, no. Does John Doe have a state-issued driver's license? Yes, but we do not wish to provide the information. You are more than welcome to put the information in there. If you do, you just fill out the bottom with your driver's license. Most of the time, this is going to be blank. It's if the state has issued you a PIN. If you don't know what they're talking about, just leave it blank and move on. Save and continue. Okay, so we have our basic taxpayer information entered. This is up to the point where I think that most of you could do on your own without anything other than what I've just gone through. And most of you could have done it without that intro. So we are going to save and continue at this point and move along. All right, so this section, this is where we get into the fun stuff. This is the income section. So income that you received only in 2022. This first box is jobs, wages. So if you had a W-2, you just highlight the box, click in it, and it'll put a ring around it. If you had investment income, and it tells you exactly what form. So look at the forms that you have. If you had a 1099 INT, a 1099 DIV, a 1099B, notice the extensions behind 1095. If none of your 1099s have these three things, then don't check that box. 1099 covers a lot of different things, so including our self-employment income. Do you have a 1099-R? If so, check this box. Pensions, annuities, and IRA distributions. Social Security benefits. Do you have a 1099 SSA? That would be this box. Business owner, we are going to click on that one because we're definitely going to be talking about Schedule C. If you are a partner or you have an LLC, then you would be checking this box. If you have rental real estate, that's this box. Did you sell your main home in 2022? That's this box. Any other miscellaneous income, if you're not sure, check the box. Gambling winnings, check the box. Let's put this out there real quick. If you are a gambler and you have winnings, you can deduct your losses up to the winnings if you have kept track of them. Are you a duly ordained, licensed, or commissioned minister? Then this box is for you. purchase, transfer, own, or mine any cryptocurrencies. We will not be discussing that in this particular video. All right, so we are going to talk about the W-2 and business owner, self-employed, or farming. And I'll go ahead and check partner or shareholder, and we will go over that section as well. Save and continue. For W-2 summary, you check the box, add a new W-2, save and continue. Pull up your W-2 and enter every piece of the W-2 in these boxes. It is self-explanatory. You start at the top. There may or may not be a control number. There will be an employer identification number. As you can see in the box, it's going to start with 2 digits, then a dash. Excuse me. Type in your employer's name. If it's on 2 lines, use the 2 lines. Type in their address. Then you can type in based on the boxes. Wages, Social Security wages will automatically fill out. Or maybe they won't. No, they won't. So wages. So if we have $50,000, Social Security wages fill out, Medicare wages fill out. If you have any extra tips, dependent care benefits, those would actually be on those lines. So if there's nothing there, don't put anything there. Federal income tax withheld. Up here, unless your address is different on this W-2, just leave your address alone. These should be what is on your W-2. So the Social Security withheld should be correct. The Medicare withheld should be correct. If there's anything for line 8 or line 11, then fill those out. For box 12, it will give you a code. If there's a code, you do the drop down, you pick the code, and you put in the amount and the year if it states a different year. Box 13, are any of these boxes checked? If so, check the boxes. Box 14, again, there's a drop down. If you have any information in box 14, pick the information, pick the correct line, put in the amount. If it's not listed, put in a description. There should be a description under box 14 if there's nothing listed over here. Box 15 is your state information. So if your state has taken state taxes out of your wages, you will do the drop down. You will pick the state that you are in. There will be an ID number for your employer, state wages. State income tax is usually a whole lot less than what you paid into federal. Then if there is anything in your local wages, tips, etc., your local income tax or locality name, then fill in those boxes. Otherwise, W-2 is pretty self-explanatory. You just type in exactly what is on the form. If you have more than one, we're going to go to previous page and done with W-2. If you have more than one, you would come back to this page and do add a new W-2. And you would just keep doing that until all of your W-2s are entered. Save and continue. All right, so we're going to look at the Schedule C next. Schedule C is what a sole proprietor is going to list their expenses on and what an LLC is going to list their expenses on. Both of those are pass-through entities and they go straight to the Schedule C. So we're going to do add a new business income, save and continue. Business information. Did you conduct this business in a name other than your name? Yes or no? In our case, we're going to go with no. Was the business address different than the home address listed in the address information? In our case, most of us are working from home and we use our home address as our business address, regardless of a PO box. The PO box doesn't matter. If you are working from your home, then it's the same address. It's saying, are you doing business in like a storefront or a warehouse or something like that where you're not actually working from home? All right, so check here if you conducted the business from your home located at the address shown on page 1 of your tax return and do not wish for your address to appear on the Schedule C. Up to you whether you check the box or not. All right, so if you have an EIN, then you would put that here. Otherwise, your Social Security number will show up on your tax return on your Schedule C. General field or activity of this business. General field or activity of this business. Most of us that are watching this are doing online sales. And a product is, pick something that you're selling, I guess. And it doesn't really matter. It's again, you can just put online sales again. Enter the business code. So for online sales, it is 454-111. Whoops. 454-111. If you're not sure, you can select this business code here and try and find it that way. The easiest thing to do is probably to Google it. Notice if you are a notary public, then check that box. If you're a notary public or you do real estate, you do not want to combine your income. You want to keep those separate. If you've been around on my channel at all, then you will know that I'm a huge proponent of the cash method. Anyone under $26 million in gross sales can use the cash method. Most of my online reseller clients, you do not want to use the accrual method. Publication 538 talks about when it was made available to use the cash method. There is an addendum that states that if your business is required to keep it in inventory, you can still use the cash method. If you are selling on eBay, Mercari, Poshmark, any of these online platforms, you are required to keep an inventory because your listing page is an inventory. So we meet the requirements and the eligibility to use the cash method and expense our inventory at the time of the purchase. Save and continue. All right, so business information is done. We'll go to material participation. Did you materially participate in the operation of this business during 2022? Yes. Did you start or acquire this business during 2022? Answer that question based on your information. If you did, then it's yes. It doesn't change anything right here, but you will be putting in dates further down the road. Did you make any payments in 2022 that would require you to file forms 1099? That would be if you had any contractors doing work for you that were not employees that you did not collect tax on. So if you had that, if they made $600 or more, then you should have already filed a 1099 for those individuals and had them mailed or sent no later than January 31st. All right. Moving along, save and continue. Did you pay for an insurance plan in 2022 established under this business to provide health insurance for yourself, your spouse, and dependents? So if you had a marketplace health insurance plan, for example, or any other plan in which you paid out of pocket for health insurance for yourself, your spouse, or your dependents, then regardless of whether it was in the name of the business or your individual name or your spouse's name, you can still claim a deduction for health insurance. In our case, we're going to go with no. Did you make any contribution to a self-employment retirement plan, such as a KEO, SEP, or Simple plan? If your answer is yes, answer yes, fill out the correct information. We're going to go with no. If you need help with this section, reach out. I'm trying to keep this as simple and across the board for as many people as possible. That's why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. Any questions, you can set up a consultation with me and we will get through it together. All right, gross receipts, income, returns, and allowances, the next step. Notice I am not skipping around, one step at a time, front to back. Okay, so 1099 NEC, click here to add a 1099 miscellaneous, click here to add a 1099K, a 1099 ATR, whichever one you had, then you can click that box that is where these go. Okay. If you had any gross receipts or sales that are not already entered on one of those forms, then you put that up here. For example, if you sold locally and you collected cash, or maybe you sold on eBay and they didn't send you a 1099, then you're going to put that money up here, that amount, those gross sales up here. On eBay, that would be going to your performance sales tab and choosing last year and subtracting out the sales tax. The resulting number is what you would put here. So gross minus sales tax only. Everything else is netted into the selling fees. Again, keeping this as across the board as possible. If you had income from a wedding, baptism, or other ministerial related work, are you a member of a qualified joint venture? So those are up to that point. For the 1099s, it's just like the W-2. You fill it out exactly what is on the paper. So it's just data entry. You read the paper, you type it in. Okay. Oh. Go back in here. All right, so that was a good example to show you right quick. So where I had clicked out, in order to go back in, you just click the yellow box that comes up that says edit. If you need to see a PDF, but there's no attachments. And then that would be to delete it and start all over again. So we're going to go in here and we're going to edit and go back into gross receipts. And we're going to put in a number. And returns or allowances. So If you have a business that has returns and allowances, like a brick and mortar, then you should have been keeping track of that all year, and that goes in there. If you are selling online on eBay or something similar, then the rule of thumb is if you had an item returned to you that you can resell, then the only amount that you are going to put in this box, or the only amount that you should put in this box, would be what it cost you with labels. But with eBay, it's all netted into selling fees. So you're still not going to use anything in here. However, if you had an item that you sold and it was returned to you damaged and you cannot resell it, then you can put an allowance into this box for that item. Any other income for this business, you would add other income. We are going to move on to save and continue. Cost of goods sold. Even though we didn't truly keep inventories in this business, we're going to say yes. We're going to say it was cost because that's what we're going to use, was what we actually paid for it. Was there any change in determining quantities, costs, or valuations between opening and closing inventory? No, because our inventory at the beginning of the year is going to be 0, and our inventory at the end of the year is going to be 0. Purchases. This is what we spent during the year on inventory. We're going to say half of what we got. Cost of items withdrawn for personal use, 0, because we don't pay for personal items when we're purchasing our inventory. Cost of labor, that is if you had labor directly involved with your inventory. You can put it here, or you can put it in a different place on the Schedule C. But if you've got 1099s for a photographer or a lister or things like that, then that money is going to go here. If you are paying a VA that's like out of the country and it's different, like you're paying a website, then that's not going to go in this box. Materials and supplies. Any of the materials and supplies that you use, such as poly mailers, bags, boxes, tape, and labels that you buy specifically to get your product from you to your consumer, then those supplies will go into this materials and supplies box. We're going to say $2,000. If you incurred other expenses related to inventory, click on add other expenses. We are going to click on add other expenses. Our description is going to be platform fees. And we are going to put in a number here. It's roughly 40%. So you would put in the actual number, not a percentage. You would put in the actual number that was for last year on eBay's seller fees under performance and sales. And if you have multiple platforms, you can put them in singularly under like eBay platforms, Poshmark platforms, Mercari, whatever, or you can put it in as one lump sum total. Either way will be fine. Save and continue. Next, depreciation. Most of us are not going to have any depreciation. If you do, then follow the instructions, reach out. Amortization, again, most of us are not going to have that, so I'm not going to go over it. Business and vehicle expenses. Almost everybody has vehicle expenses, and everybody has business expenses. If you don't, then you have not been listening to my calls. Listen to my calls, come back, and we will get all of that straight for you. Save and continue. Advertising. It's pretty self-explanatory. Advertising. Pretty self-explanatory. If you are paying for ads, Facebook or such and or so forth. Sorry, I got interrupted. If you are buying business cards, thank you cards, a sticker for your car, a magnet for your car, a car wrap, I don't know. Advertising, it is what it is. We've been watching commercials for years. I think you got it. Commissions and fees. Commissions, if you are doing consignment with people, this is one of the places that you could put commissions. I tend to put it into my inventory purchases because it's easier. Contract labor, that is what we were talking about earlier. If you have somebody coming in and doing work for you on your business, if they make $600 or more, you have to send them a 1099. All right, we are going to skip depletion and employee benefit programs because that is not the majority. Excuse me, insurance other than health. That would be like umbrella insurance, business insurance. Legal and professional services, your accountant, me, lawyers. If you had someone file paperwork for an LLC, for example, that would go into there. Office expense is not going to apply to most of us. Office expense is if you had an actual office where employees or customers came in and you provided things like a coffee bar or snacks. What else? If you had, you had like plants and you had a service come in and water the plants. If you had cleaning, for example, coming in to clean the office. Those are the types of things that the office expense pertains to. We're going to skip over pension and profit sharing plans, repairs and maintenance. Generally speaking, that is going to apply with things like if you had computer work done. If it's not going to apply to your home if you are working from your home. It would apply to a building or store or office if you are working not from home, but out of an actual physical location other than your home. All right, let's see. We're going to skip that stuff. It doesn't really apply to most people. Supplies. So supplies is going to be any consumables such as pens, paper, ink, tape that's not used for shipping. Any consumable supplies that you're regularly going to use in your office or business. And it is not items that you're using to get your inventory from you to your customer. So it would be all the other stuff. Taxes and licenses, that would include anything that you're paying to the state, for example. If you have to, or the county or your city in order to run a business. Utilities, if you are one of the people that is doing reselling and listening, then 100% of your cell phone and 100% of your inventory can go into utilities, because we absolutely 100% need those items in order to run our business. Wages less employment credits. Most of us won't be needing that, but if you are taking a wage, then part of that would go in here. Save and continue. If you have a business space and you have a mortgage on that, then your mortgage interest can go in here. If you have credit card interest on, or loan interest for business loans, then that can go in here. Travel and meals, 2022, you still have the ability to deduct 100% of meals if they were eligible. Travel, this portion of travel would be your lodging, things like that, as you are traveling to get somewhere, and during the business days that you are in those locations. 100% deductible meals, and there's the tax help right there. Business meals are 100% deductible if the meals are food or beverage provided by a restaurant and paid on or incurred after December 31st, 2020 and before January 1st, 2023. All of 2021 and 2022 business meals were 100% deductible. $50 deductible meals. In most cases, for other business meals, you can deduct only 50% of your business meal expenses, including meals incurred while away from home on business. I think there is a further stipulation in the IRC that is different than that. 80% deductible meals. This is subject to Department of Transportation hours of service limits. So it's really only for people that are with Department of Transportation. You know who you are. All right. Rent or lease vehicles, machinery, and equipment. And see, this is where some of the software, it just doesn't quite directly apply with the way that the Internal Revenue Code is written. So if you have small equipment, shelves, things like that, that you purchased, you can put that there. Other business property. Need to enter vehicle expenses. Yes, save and continue. All right, when did you place your vehicle in service for business purposes? So this is the first day that this particular vehicle, if you have multiple vehicles, whichever one the first one is you're entering, if you had the vehicle on the first day of business that you started the business, and you used it for business when you started the business, then this date is going to be the same as when you started the business. If you bought the car after, or a vehicle after you started the business, then this is going to be the date that you bought the car and put it into service for the business. In 2022, they changed the mileage rate halfway through the year. You need to know how many miles you drove in the first half of the year versus the second half of the year. These miles need to be written. And when I say written, I don't mean with pen and ink. I mean, it can be written in a spreadsheet. It can be in notes. It just needs to be not in your head. It can be in an app, just not you guesstimating it. So the top is for how many miles you drove your vehicle for business, first half of the year, second half of the year. Enter the total number of miles you drove your vehicle for commuting. If you had a W-2 job and you commuted back and forth, then that would be this portion. And then how many miles you drove your vehicle for other purposes. Most of us are not counting all of the other miles, but what we do is count all of the miles that we drove for the year. So that's where I talk about go grab a picture of your odometer reading on the first of the year. That way you have it. You have your beginning and your ending odometer reading. If you did not get that, come visit me on one of my calls and we'll talk about ways that you can get it. Or listen to one of my calls. Almost every one of them talks about, in there somewhere, talks about how you can get that. But so long as you have your business miles and you have them written, any miles over top of that can just go into other purposes and be done with it. Was your vehicle available for personal use during off-duty hours? Yes or no? Do you have another vehicle available for personal use? Yes or no? Do you have evidence to support your deduction? Again, it can't be in your head. So, yes, do you have it? And is it written? Did you use 5 or more vehicles simultaneously in your business? Did you lease your vehicle or use the standard mileage rate on your prior year return? On your prior year return. Typo. Select the option to figure out the deductible cost of operating the vehicle. So you can use your standard mileage rate or you can use your actual expenses. Please, please, please remember, if you want to use your actual expenses, you still have to keep your mileage. You can't take your actual expenses without keeping your mileage, because it's going to take the percentage that you drove your vehicle for business against your actual expenses. So if you only drove your vehicle 50% of the time for business, then all of your actual expenses, you'll only get 50%. All right, enter the amount of parking fees and tolls for this vehicle. So if you had any parking fees or tolls for this vehicle, put those there. For example, your was it the flex pass, the toll pass thing? If you have one of those, most of us have to keep a prepaid amount on it. So if you prepaid the amount in 2022, then you didn't have to use the amount, just put the total amount that you paid to the flex pass and any other parking fees or tolls into this box. Save and continue. Yeah, I know. We're just going to go back. And say no. All right. Other expenses. So if you had anything that wasn't included already, so here's some examples. If you're a member of the reseller Nirvana group, continuing education. So you would just type in and put in the amount. How about subscriptions? If you have subscriptions to stuff, and put in the amount. Anything that's not already listed or you weren't able to put in the other sections, you can put in here. Those are the only two things I can think of at the moment. All right, business use of home. So there are two methods to doing business use of your home. One method is the simplified method, which goes, as it says, it's a standard $5 per square foot used to determine home business deduction. And then the regular method, or I call it the long form usually, which is form 8829, is actual expenses should be determined and records should be maintained. This is the 2022 version of my workbook. This is the home office expense calculator. You put in the total square footage of your home, the total square footage of your garage if you have one. That gives you the total square footage, the total square footage of business space used inside your home, the total square footage of the garage if you use the garage. If you have anything whatsoever in your garage that is business related, you can use you can claim the entire garage. That will do the math for you and give you the business use of home percentage. And this is where you put in your total monthly expenditures for each one of the things. There may be things here that I have not included. For example, HOA fees. I've got home mortgage interest and I have rent because this is to cover everybody. How about a security system? Which could be Ring, or it could be a regular system. It could be Ring or Nest or one of those other things. What other utilities might you have? Again, I don't put cell phone or internet here. That goes straight into your expenses, into your deductions. Home office calculator is based on business use. I mean, the home office deduction is based on business use, and you do not get to use it in the current year if you are already in the negative, but it will go forward. So if you don't get to use it this year, do it anyway. And then when you have a profit next year, you can use this as a deduction next year. If you still have profit at the end of all the rest of the expenses, you can use it this year. So have all of these numbers and then pick the way to do that you want to do the form. I'm not going to go into that right now. If you are going to do this on your own, maybe use the simplified method. If you want some help doing it, you can reach out to do the long form. But again, if you want to read the instructions, just read the instructions. It's not that difficult to do. I'm just not going to go into it in this. It's already pretty long. All right, so Again, you select which method you want to use. And if your home office is over 300 square feet, you don't get a choice. You have to use the regular method, which is Form 8829. You get to only use the simplified method if your home office is 300 square feet or less. All right, and we don't have any passive activity information. And that is all of the Schedule C. Save and continue. Done with business income. We're not going to get into depreciation and amortization. If you have things that you need to depreciate, that is beyond the scope of going through this software. Reach out to another tax accountant and get some help with that. Self-employment tax. So if you are a minister or were you a U.S. citizen or resident alien living outside the U.S., then you would need to check those boxes. Otherwise, save and continue. This is based on some of the numbers I put in before. So self-employment income, remember, you will have to pay self-employment tax on the income that on the profit, the net profit that you make from your business. Did you make any contributions to a self-employment retirement plan? In our case, no. All right, so we are not going over the farm stuff, and we didn't have any SEP or simple and qualified plans. We will take a quick look at the Schedule K1 for partners. It is very much like the Schedule C. Each partner would get one, and it one from your 1065 from the corporation, and then that information would get entered into this form, much like a W-2. So all of this information would be done based on the main 1065 that gets done for the corporation. And then it would have self-employment tax for that. Again, same questions. And we're done with that. All right, so that is all of the income. We're done with the income summary. And I'm going to quickly go through these other things. Most of it is you fill out a form based on the form that you have. There's educator expenses, employee business expenses. That is if you have employees. Health savings account. If you received a 1099 SA for a health savings account. If you had moving expenses, if you paid alimony, if you had student loan interest. So we're going to skip this step. Skipped it and it still took us. So done with that. Do you have any of these? So most of us are going to choose a standard deduction. If you lived in an area that had qualified disaster loss, if you paid a lot of medical expenses, realize that this is taking you to a Schedule A, which is itemized deductions, and medical expenses are limited to a percentage of your income. So depending on what your filing status is, many people are not going to have enough deductions for Schedule A to beat what the standard deduction is. By all means, try it and see which way comes out to be best for you. Where this might make a difference is if you've been tithing or making extreme donations to a church, for example, then well over your 10%, then maybe a Schedule A is going to beat out the standard deduction. And then there's qualified business income deduction, and everyone should go through that form. So we're going to choose standard deduction and qualified business income deduction, which I call QBID. We are not, or this example is not in Puerto Rico. Taxes you paid. Again, a lot of this is about a Schedule A. You can put this information in if you want to. Each section, if you just do the show more, it will give you the different aspects of each section. Gifts to charity. Again, like churches and stuff like that. You can do up to $600 without doing a Schedule A. Again, other itemized deductions, and then there is the standard deduction for a single person, which is what we're claiming, and then the qualified business income. So we're going to look at this right quick. It's a little you need to get in here and do and read the instructions. I can't answer the questions for you, but just read the instructions, make sure that you fill it out and ask questions if you need to, because everybody's situation is a little bit different, but you definitely want to go through this and click the box that you've reviewed the information. Click all the little question marks, but this could definitely be a good deduction for some businesses. So it's definitely something that you want to go into a little more in detail. All right. There's the marketplace health insurance form if you have that to enter. Otherwise, we're going to save and continue. If you had child and dependent care expenses, click on that box so that you can enter them. Education credits, that would mean you'd have Form 8863 or a 1098T. Retirement savings contribution credits, a Form 880, 8880. Residential energy credit, foreign tax credit, other non-refundable credits, And then there goes into a whole list of other possibilities. It's very rare that I've ever had anyone had any of these sections. Excuse me. Done with credits. All right, so taxes. Most of this stuff is not applicable if you have just a business, and if you have a W-2, then it's already entered. Self-employment tax, we went through already. Additional tax on qualified plans. Read the forms that you have. If you have any of these forms, then you're going to want to click on those boxes. If you have household employees, live-in maid type, for example, then you would have that. Repayment of first-time home buyer credit, if you have a Form 5405. Again, just read the forms that you have. If you have any of these forms, then you're going to want to click on show more, enter that information. It does not apply to most of the people that I work with. Earned income credit. I'm not going to go into that in here. If you are generally eligible for earned income credit, you know who you are and what it is. It is traditionally for lower income families, although some single people do qualify. If you are wanting to do estimated tax payments or any other payments, you click on those. Save and continue. Federal income tax withheld. If you had put it into your W-2, then it would be showing up here. Again, earned income credit, child tax credit, American Opportunity Credit. If you have this form, you want to put that in there. Again, here's some more forms. If you have any of those. And so common items, underpayment of estimated tax. If you have a third-party designee, or if you have a preparer that needs to do notes, or you want to add notes, then you can put those in there. Never give any information more than is asked for. Save and continue. All right. Then this gives you a summary page of your federal return. I'm not going to go through the state return because obviously that's different for everyone. There are ways that you can pay through the IRS website. The link is right there, irs.gov/payments. And you can always view and print right here. If you decide that you would like me to have a look or do a consultation call after you have gotten this far, then you can either pull your screen up and we'll go through it step by step, or you could reach out and you would just save a PDF of your taxes and we would get a Dropbox and you would put them in the Dropbox for me to take a look at and talk to you about. And that is going to conclude the overview. The state is simple. If you have state, then really everything is going to pull over into your state, and you just click through each page, and you get to the end. You put in your you'll put in your bank account information if you're getting a refund, and you just, for each section, you'll just review it for the state. You'll put it in for the federal, review it for the state, and then once you actually submit your return, sometime usually within 24 hours, you will get an email that says whether your return was accepted or rejected. If it was accepted, you're good to go, nothing more to do. If it was rejected, then you need to go back in and figure out what the error was and fix your errors. I hope that this has helped you all. And I look forward to working with you. If you need my assistance, reach out, have questions, comment below, like and subscribe, and I will see you around. Thanks for watching.